Welcome back, Halligans. You are here with us once again. My name is Joe, joined as always by my vivacious and amazing co-host, Ryan. We're here to review The Kingsman. This would be a prequel movie to the first two Kingsman movies. I will say, at the outset, I did enjoy the first Kingsman movie more than the second Kingsman movie. Ryan and I had a discussion, just a little thing about this last night. And it was both of us felt that for the same reason. There were moments in the second Kingsman movie that were good. Moments that were fun and lighthearted or serious or whatever it was that made the second one good, like the first one was good. But taking away, and the spoiler for those who have not seen, for sure, the first two movies. So if you don't want to hear that, skip 20 seconds. But taking away a very monumental moment in the first movie, killing of a main character, to bring that character back, I don't know if the story of the second movie warranted enough doing that, and by doing that, it really increased the value of the second movie. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, it really has to increase how good the second movie is, and I don't feel like that's what happened. I kind of feel like it detracted from the first movie and what it had done, so it made the second movie not as good as I was hoping it would be.
Right.
This movie is neither one of those movies. So
yeah,
Ryan,
and we're past your 20-second spoiler warning, so I'll be vague about it again. But what you're talking about was basically taking off the training wheels in the first movie, and what they did in the second one very much was a step backward. I think.
Agreed.
I feel like I feel like it was studio stuff. I don't feel like it was the writers or directors. I feel like it was somebody else somewhere who was like, no, this needs to happen. And it kind of got shoehorned in. I don't know. It just feels like there's so many better ways you could have arrived at pretty much the same conclusion. But I agree. Yeah, first one was much better than the second one. But the second one, like you were saying, has a lot of great moments and overall is very good. Just, they could have done it a little bit better.
Now, this prequel, it's a movie to show you how the Kingsmen got started, how that organization came to be. They start before anything like that is around, and they show you what's going on during World War I. This is World War I for this movie, correct?
Well, yeah, it actually starts pre-World War One. But yeah, okay. Or the Great War, as it
the Great War as it's known then.
Because if they were like, "Oh, is this World War One?" They would have been like, "World War what?"
Right? Like those time traveler memes.
Yeah.
World War III happened. World War what? Excuse me. There were a lot of things about this movie that I think I really enjoyed. All of it, no. There were some things that I think missed the mark a little. Some things that surprised me, I guess. There is a Legion of Doom, shall we say, style villainy going on here. Now, I did like how it pulled from real life characters from that time period. Some of them were, some of them weren't, but you recognize certain characters. Like, oh, I know who that is. Oh, that's Lenin. Oh, that's, Rasputin is in it. And you have these characters who you know from actual history. I hate cats. I'm just going to throw that out there. Sorry about that, Halligan.
I'm going to leave that.
Yeah, that was an interesting part of this, that they did that, because you're dealing with something that an actual conflict. These things actually happened, even though the things they threw into the storyline to make things happen are entirely fabricated and are just done for movie fun.
Yeah. Man. So the movie begins with an introduction to oh my god, why can't I think of his name?
The main guy, Ralph Fiennes?
Yeah. Yes, Ralph Fiennes.
Voldemort?
Yeah, Voldemort. I actually really he's gone beyond that for me. He's the new M. I think he did a good job as M. He was also the the concierge from Grand Budapest.
Yeah. He's been in several things, so
he's super famous. He's been in a ton of stuff, but it starts with an introduction to him and kind of shows his history, and he's on this humanitarian effort in South Africa. And does a good job of giving him like a Batman origin story kind of moment, like this moment that changes him and turns him into something else, sends him down a different path.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to go spoiler free for the first part of this. So I think the way that they handled introducing him and really carefully teasing out his history and why he's doing the things he's doing and why he feels the way he does about, conflict and war and his son participating in it. And he's overprotective of his son a little bit, but he also does let him have, I mean, he takes him flying in like an old school two-wing plane or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
Biplane.
yeah, he's doing a lot of stuff that is dangerous and like something that you would do as somebody who's privileged, somebody who is the son of I don't remember exactly the English hierarchy. I know Duke is not terribly high, but I don't know if it's like technically just nobility or aristocracy or if there's some distinction, but it's totally unrelatable at first, but then they do a good job of humanizing him. He's like, yeah, I mean, this is really cool that we can do all this stuff, but can I leave home? Can I like go out into the world? Can I do stuff? He's basically like Jasmine from Aladdin. He just wants to go out and experience things, and he's being protected by his father.
Yeah, and I didn't know the actor who played his son. I hadn't recognized him from anything particularly, uh, but I thought he did a good job. I just straight up, I would have to say I did not like him as much as Taron Egerton in the movies.
No.
Harris Dixon is the actor's name. He played Conrad Oxford, the son of Orlando Oxford, who is the Duke of what's he play? The Duke of something? I forget
Duke of
what it is.
Oxford.
Duke of Oxford. Oh, there you go. Obviously.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I enjoyed the characters in this. I enjoyed the way they developed people. They took their time. It wasn't as kind of goofy and fast paced as the first Kingsman movie was. Like you had in the first one, Sam Jackson playing this really over the top, ridiculous villain. But it was great. I loved what he did.
Hmm.
It was so much fun to have that. And in this, you still have in its own way a ridiculous over the top villain, but the way that it's like that is to get to that point throughout the course of this movie is a much slower burn
Hmm.
to get to a reveal of this the overall leader of their version of the Legion of Doom.
Yeah.
All these big bad guys coming together under the leadership of one bad guy, with ultimate plans to, it's almost like a revenge
Yeah.
plan for the particular one who's in charge of all of it. One of the things that I don't want to like it's hard because I don't want to get into a bunch of it because some of the stuff I want to talk about is going to be the spoiler stuff. So let me just.
Yeah. So like you said, the movie is the origin of the Kingsman Secret Service,
Mhm.
basically. And yeah, it has really good um, character development. It has really good interactions between the characters too. They all seem very well fleshed out. You have Polly, who's like the maid, but she's not really a maid. She's kind
Yeah.
of more like a partner. You have Shola, who presumably is somebody that what's his name? God, the Duke, whatever.
Uh, oh, yeah. Duke
He got
Oxford,
Yeah, I forget what his first name's supposed to be though, but
Orlando.
Orlando, yeah. That he gets hooked up with him in Africa or something on that one
Huh?
campaign they show a flashback of. And I like that guy. Isn't that the guy that played Machine Head or whatever in Guardians?
Yeah, it's
Juman Hansu or something like
yes.
that?
However you pronounce that, I'm always terrible.
However you
But I like him
pronounce
a
that
lot.
place.
I think the first thing I recognized him from, and I probably mentioned this in other movies where he's been in that we've reviewed, was Gladiator.
Mm,
Was the first big thing that I remember seeing him in
I
as
don't
the what?
I don't remember him in Gladiator. I
He,
haven't seen Gladiator in a long time, like since it came out.
I watched that not terribly long ago. I would not mind us reviewing it because it's a good period piece. It's fun and it
Mm.
is some good stuff. But anyways,
But yeah, I like that they all have it's a really good almost Star Wars original Star Wars sort of formula. Like each character has their specialty and they're like snarky and they all get along.
mm-hmm.
Like it makes it feel more real than some of them, like especially since we're establishing that there's this big time jump between the first set of events and the second set. So these people have known each other for a while.
Right.
It's not like, the new Star Wars movies, where they just try to throw them together and have them be like that right away. Like the OG trilogy, I'm not saying that they all knew each other right away, but they took their time to develop these friendships over the course of 3 movies, not one movie and then they're all buds after that.
Yeah.
Like it's a little different. And in this one, they have this way of interacting with each other that makes it feel, like almost like a family. And I
Hmm.
like that about them. I like that everybody feels real. There's no one person who's just way better at everything than anybody else. Nothing feels terribly imbalanced. And the way they work together and motivate each other really worked for me in this. I know I could see some of the YouTubers that we watch, maybe saying that there's like some gender politics or something like that. That you have, the poly coming out and being like, oh, boys do this, girls do that, those kind of lines and things like that. But those, because of the way they've shown her character throughout the movie, those feel more like a tease, like from
Yeah.
a proper English woman who's like, oh, boys do this, but like it doesn't feel like they're putting politics into it to me. It feels
I
like
mean,
they do a decent job of explaining like why everyone is the way they are.
yeah, I can see why people might try to say that, but I really feel like with a movie like this, it wasn't something that was done with that as the intent.
Right.
Like some movies do that. I just kind of liked her character. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a scene, and this isn't spoiling anything, but you've got Oxford and Shola, and they're knife fighting out in the yard. They're
Yes.
doing this training, not actually knife fighting. They have these training things and they're doing that. And she walks up and shoots from a great distance with a handgun in one hand, shoots this knife out of his hand, out of
Yeah.
Shola's hand.
As he's
And
fighting Conrad, not Orlando.
yes, I'm sorry,
The
Conrad.
young
I
one.
apologize.
It's
Thank
not.
you.
He's not fighting like the Duke.
Yeah, yeah, correct.
That'd be
He's
very
training him.
improper.
It's a
Yeah,
training thing. They're he's teaching him how to be.
and Conrad's
And see
age
if from a
Conrad's age is impossible to determine during this because he looks like he's
really
about
is. They
25 because
say
he probably
he's
is 25, but he's like 17 in this
right.
scene,
So it's supposed to be 17, something like that. And,
something like that.
I don't know, 17, whatever. But she shoots this knife out of his hand from a reasonable distance away. And, we just went shooting guns for my bachelor party
Yeah.
and shooting a gun accurately with one hand. And then we're talking about we have like modern firearms
Mm-hmm.
that are nice, that shoot well. That's an accomplishment.
Right.
So I think it was,
Remember,
I didn't,
I got a really precise shot with my revolver, and then I was like, all right, I want to go home. I'm done. I just want to leave on that high
yeah,
note.
that's it.
It's like
I
it is
know.
so hard to make a shot accurately, like so much harder than the average person who hasn't shot a gun would think.
And I'm sorry to do that and to fire it that with that much confidence around human beings, who,
Mm-hmm.
if you're off by the smidgen, somebody's either dead or seriously injured. It's a
Right.
gun. Like that's how those work. But I thought it was a decent way to show the competency of her. That this person is kind of for real. I
Right.
did think some of the other stuff that happened later where they ended up using her as this code breaker person, but she, like you said, like the Star Wars reference, everybody had their specific specialties,
Mm-hmm.
and she had a couple of she didn't end up doing everything. It wasn't like she just came in and always saved the day. It was the best at everything. It wasn't that. She had a couple specialties, and she was a certain part of the group dynamic.
Yeah, that bugged me a little bit too. That it's like her versus this like whole room of code breakers, and we're supposed to believe that she can get it.
Right.
But she's getting info from them, from other sources. She's figuring stuff out on her own. Like she's 100% not alone on this.
Right.
So at first I was like, really? Like really they're going to have this agency as it's starting off with like 3 people be competitive with like real governments and stuff, but then they go more into like what they're actually dealing with, like what they have to work with. So I
And
guess there's not
she didn't just get it either. She didn't
right.
just, here's the stuff, here's my info. Oh, there it is, here you go. Like it showed time lapse. It showed her failing and getting frustrated, and like it wasn't just here you go, I did it. Like there was a little bit of growth and development there.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I'm trying to figure out if there's much more we can talk about without spoiling anything. I think maybe we should just go straight into. Well, we can do like recommendations, preliminary recommendations, and then into spoiler territory.
Okay, I will say before we get, I don't want to spoil anything or whatever, but I did enjoy a couple different actors who I knew from other things.
Mm-hmm.
Reese Ifans, if
Mm-hmm.
that's
The one who
how his
played
name is.
Rasputin.
He played Rasputin, and I like him in a lot. A lot of things I've seen him in, I really enjoy him in, and he was one of the standouts in this. I really enjoyed Rasputin in this. And then you've got Daniel Bruhl, who played Hanusen.
He yeah, the assistant to the Kaiser or whatever,
Yes,
who was the one controlling Bucky in Civil War.
exactly.
Yeah, I recognized him from that. Um, I liked Matthew Good. Like there were a lot of people in this. Kitch was played by Tywin Lannister, whatever his real name is.
Yes.
Matthew Good, who was Ozymandias in Watchmen, as
Mm-hmm.
like his assistant.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, I liked the cast in this. I thought they did a really good job.
There were some people who I did recognize, but yeah, I thought the Rasputin in this was a standout for me. And he was one of the ones when you saw the trailers for this, like there's your villain. That's
Hmm.
who they built all this up, to go around. So he was fun in this. I really did enjoy it.
All right, so how do you feel about it in general? We recommending this as a watch before we get into spoilers?
Yeah, I recommend this as a watch. There were some things in it that really surprised me.
Hmm.
Some moments, some things that I really enjoyed. And if you are a fan of the Kingsman movies, and even though we like the first one better than the second one, which happens with a lot of movies, let's be
Hmm.
honest, there's not many sequels that outshine the original. This was a fun prequel. It was a fun way to show how that organization got started. So I did enjoy it. I will say that.
Hmm. And I will agree. I like this movie a lot more than I thought I would. I didn't really want to watch it initially because I didn't really like the second one that much. I thought the first one was a really good self-contained movie. It's something we've talked about on here a lot. Like the
Hmm.
the value of a good story that's just told and done. It doesn't have to have a follow-up, doesn't have to be open-ended. And I mean, even if they just hint like this world will continue, like that's cool. Not just like it's all over and everybody goes back home to their normal lives. Like this is the new norm. Like I'm cool with the ending just being that and not having to go back to it. That being said, I really enjoyed this like a lot more than I thought I would. I would say it doesn't quite meet the level of the first one just because the way the first one was shot, just the whole package of that movie was so different from anything that we had at that time
It
that
was.
it
That
just
first
it
movie was an experience in and of
yeah,
itself. And I
and
agree
it
with you about that, that it could have been without a sequel, anything else. It could have been a self contained, close the book. We are done. We don't need
mhm,
any more of these. It doesn't have to be a franchise, which this probably will. They'll probably have Taron Egerton back. They will probably do a Kingsman 3 and go from there. And I do hope if they continue to do that, it's it's worth doing.
mhm,
And a lot of times they just try and rush things out. Studios want to rush things out because money, 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 money. I
mhm,
get it, the almighty
yeah,
dollar. I mean, I understand, but for people like us, for people like you all who watch this, who take in this product that you're selling us, give us something worth our time. I mean, my time's important. I don't want to waste it watching what I think is going to be good and ends up being
mhm, yeah, recycled junk from the last movie or characters coming back that don't need to, plot lines being revisited, characters regressing into old habits and having to have the same character arc and transformation again.
uh-huh.
That's the kind of stuff that we complain about all the time on here that happens over and over in sequels now.
Yeah.
Now that we're in the I don't know, the era where you just like we said before, beat that dead horse till it stops spitting out money.
That's basically it. But I would agree with you on. I saw it on, I guess, HBO Max is what we watched this on,
Hmm.
and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll watch that. I'll check that out." It was better than I expected. It ended up being because of the second movie, I was skeptical. I was real skeptical on what this was going to be, especially because it didn't have my favorite character in it because it's a prequel. They're not going to have Taron Egerton in it,
Yeah.
nor should they. That's fine, being what it is. I did end up liking this more than I thought I would. So yeah, I guess both you and I are recommending it. It's a watch from us.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't have like great granddaddy Edgerton in it, or Eggsy or whatever his last
Oh
name
my
was.
god. Oh,
Because that's another thing they could have done. It's like
it is.
have it be like an ancestor of his that's in this thing. That would have been terrible.
All right. All right, Holligans. We're in it. We're spoiler time now. So if you haven't watched this movie, go watch it, rent it, whatever. If you enjoyed the first ones, you'll enjoy this. But we're going to get into it now because there are some things that I would, not a ton, to be honest, but some things I want to talk about with this. Some moments that were really good and that I really enjoyed. Now, what did you think about, like, I understood in the very beginning, we talked about the setup for Oxford's character.
Mm-hmm.
It was really the setup for Oxford, both the father and son. So for Orlando and the Duke and Conrad, they're on this humanitarian thing, and rebels, whatever part of the conflict it is, start shooting at the military base, the setup, the encampment that they're visiting.
Well, they
And
refer to it as a concentration camp.
they do, yeah. And he's there in the thought of he's not okay with what's going on.
Yeah.
Like you see that from the outset that this is not he's not a fan of what is happening. And even though the head of it, it's the guy, who did you say his name was? And I can't find him here. Yeah, Tywin Land. I didn't just want to say that.
Whatever his let me see if I can find his name. Charles Dance.
Yeah, Charles Dance. That he was in charge of all of it. He gave reasoning as to why it was. Like, because of what they were doing, they were winning. They were accomplishing their goals in a more efficient manner because of what they were doing. Doesn't make it right, but, in war, not everything is going to be right. That's how it is. And you have to learn, that's why our military fights the way it fights now, because of years and years of learning how to be better than what the previous generation did. And so I think Duke Oxford was on the forefront of that he was seeing the way things were going on and said a little bit showing that this is not the way we want this to be. And throughout the course of that, his wife gets killed, Comrade's mom, she dies. And that's a big turning point for them. And that was a good jumping off point for everything that was going to go on in this movie and how it kept, like, towards the very end of this movie, towards, you're 3/4 into that, and that's still making a play. The fact that how, her death, and it's still affecting everybody. Okay. What I want to ask you is, how did you think about how the Duke of Oxford treated his son in not wanting him to go fight, yet his son is he's got stars in his eyes. He's blinded by the light. Oh, is that too much? Okay.
A little bit.
A little bit. So yeah, he's very patriotic. He wants to go fight for his country. He knows, kind of like in the first original Captain America movie, that Steve Rogers. Oh, you worried about signing up? Nope. Like, he wants to go and do his part. Everybody's going to do their part. He wants to go do his part. And the same thing with this kid. He wants to go do his part, but he doesn't understand what he's signing up for.
They do a good job of exploring the idea that governments glorify the idea of sacrificing yourself for a greater good.
Right.
What I didn't what I wanted to hear the Duke say the whole time was, I promised your mother I wouldn't let you see war. Like, the day when she was dying in my arms, that's what I promised her.
Just
I don't know if that would have, just straight out saying it. I mean, I get why they didn't. They had that affect him instead of just repeating the those same words. Like, he knows that he made a vow to his wife, and the kid knows that too, or seems to. It seems like it's a thing that is just known, that he's a pacifist for that reason. I do like that he tells him about having been in war. I was just like you. I went to war. I earned this medal. I earned it for killing people that I didn't need to kill, and then I tried to spend the rest of my time in the service saving people. I
Yeah, and
really,
there's a little bit of a flashback moment there,
yeah.
and he's explaining it, and it does a good job of showing why he feels the way he feels about it. But that's how we see it.
Hmm.
From Conrad's eyes, it's just this glory war story that his father's telling him, and he's like, "Well, I should get the shot to do this myself. I want to go and kill the bad guys for my
That's
country."
that's true. He does say like, "Well, I'll earn my own cross
Yeah.
or whatever that medal is that he's got." Um, I it's hard to separate that out from what else happens in the movie, like especially their encounter with Rasputin and how all that goes down, because they're done.
So good.
Like finally, the Duke is like, okay, I've kept this from you long enough. Like we need to do something. So he shows him like I've actually been secretly working on this the whole time. Like this is my Clark Kent cover.
Hmm.
Like I'm this mild mannered pacifist, and it allows me to operate pretty secretly. And it's weird to me that the kid's doing these things that are like way above the level of what a soldier does, and he's still like, no, I got to go be a soldier. Like it doesn't matter that I'm influencing world events. I have to go be in the trenches with the rifle doing my thing. I thought that was very odd.
Well, it's
And I thought that or that the Duke had a very good point that like you've gone above and beyond like your duty, like what you owe your country. Like tonight, like what we did was more than enough. You shouldn't feel like you owe anybody anything now.
yeah. I will say that whole scene with Rasputin there's a couple scenes with Rasputin that I will say it really helped feel like a Kingsman movie. That character really helped. If you if you hadn't seen the other two movies, it might seem out of place for this
Yeah.
movie.
But you need the
If you
colorful
didn't,
villain.
yeah, if you hadn't known what style of movies the other ones were, because there were a very stylized, interesting, unique take on a kind of spy, James Bondish action, the hero versus the villain kind of dynamic.
Hmm.
And so I think without that being already established, it would have seemed out of place. But it was one of the things I really enjoyed because everything that I just talked about was what I really liked about the Kingsman movies.
Yeah.
How outrageous they were at times and how outrageous the villains were and how they acted. And so that whole scene where they go and confront Rasputin was fantastic. I
Yeah.
loved all of it.
I like their interactions. I like that Rasputin has this really bizarre sort of physical presence, and he totally commands the room when he walks in. And he speaks with such disrespect to the Duke, and he just gives it right
Yes.
back. And he's just kind of like good humored about it. You know, I really enjoyed that. It's like somebody who's very self confident.
Yeah, and as he should be.
Yeah,
Like
and I
he's the
like
Duke
that
of
they
Oxford. He's not gonna just
take
take
shit.
crap from this guy.
Right. And they did such a good job with Rasputin. Just he looked so weird, and it's just like I could just imagine how he must have smelled, and those weird women that were with him. It was
It
like, oh,
was.
this guy is so fucking creepy. And when he's trying to fix his leg, when he's like, put your leg in my lap and let me try to fix it, and then he starts doing what he's doing, and Ralph Fiennes is making those weird noises and stuff, and I just like contorted my body in this weird way. I was like, oh god, make it stop! Just looking at it, it bothered me.
That was a weird moment.
Oh,
Like I feel like so as part of the spoilers of this, they're trying to their goal is to poison Rasputin.
which
That
really
he is
happened in real life. Like he was
yeah,
actually
yeah,
poisoned with cakes in real life. That's part of how he died. It didn't
yeah, there's
work,
a whole
same as in this, but I like the way that they took inspiration from real life events for this.
yeah, they did. And that was I enjoyed that as well. But the whole thing is he's whispering in the ear and he's keeping something from happening that the British need to have happen in
Hmm.
this war. And so we have to take this guy out. That's the whole goal. That's their secret mission is to take this guy out and they're going to poison him. And I feel like he knew. Like he eats this tart before he works on his leg. So he knew what was going on. He refers to it afterwards like, "Oh, you think you got me?" No, I know why that is this whole little short monologue about it. And like later on in the movie, Ralph Fiennes' character, the Duke, would not have been able to do what he did and like win the day and start the Kingsman if Rasputin didn't do his weird gypsy Russian magic leg trick and fix his leg, like that stuff wouldn't have happened. So, I mean, I guess it was one of those that had to happen so that the rest of the movie could happen kind of things.
Hmm.
But it just, I didn't understand it. Like, why would you do that? Or he just did it because he was that arrogant that he just assumed he would kill him
Hmm.
afterwards. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to do this now just to kill you after this.
Yeah, just to show you that I can do it. And it is cool that he demonstrates genuine abilities during this, like not just the leg thing, but he's like able to pull information out of him. He basically uses like Kylo Ren's thing to like pull information out.
Yeah, it was
You
really
know,
neat. I liked
yeah,
he was so good in this. I really really enjoyed him. And again, I know we're in the spoilers here, but he's not the main villain of this whole movie. Which
that was
you know that ahead of time. You know,
I
I mean, okay, you
okay.
kind of know that. You know that there's a leader guy, and during these Legion of Doom meetings, that he is reporting to this leader guy. My original assumption, I guess, based on the trailers, was
Mhm.
that he was going to usurp that guy's power, and he would take over and be the leader.
Yep,
But that's not what happened.
yeah, that was what I was that I thought that would happen too, and then when I noticed, oh god, whatever his name is, like the actual twist, uh, God, what's his name?
Ozymandias,
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what his actual like what his character name was in that.
McKitchen, is
Morton?
that
No,
or whatever you said? I don't remember.
come on, Morton. Yeah, Morton. I was right, Morton.
Morton. Okay.
Yeah, Morton. I don't know. For some reason, like that guy was just in the background. Like every scene, he's always there. He's talking to people a little bit. He like puts his 2 cents in, but he's never really explored too much. And I was like, this guy. I don't know what it is. Like I didn't know what was going to happen, but I was like, there's something up with this guy.
Really? Did you pick
And
that out?
I really did. Like from I think this like probably the second time I saw him, I knew something was going to happen with him.
Man, you're better than I am, bro. Because that twist that comes up at the end, and you find out that he is this Scottish villain.
Mm-hmm.
Because you
Super
hear him the whole
Scottish.
time, you never see his face, but you hear him talking. He's got this. He's a Scotsman, and you hear that, and so you don't necessarily. They do a good job. At least I thought they did a good job of subverting that for the twist reveal at the end. But the problem with that was the actor they got to do it. I was really bummed out that it was the same guy who they did the exact same thing in Watchmen.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I thought it, and I was like, okay, am I just thinking this because he was Ozymandias and that happened in Watchmen, or is it really like right? And even before the reveal of who the big bad is in the end, I was thinking like I doubted myself. I was like, maybe it's not him, but it makes sense that it's him because
It
he's been
does.
there for everything. He's the only one they didn't like give a lot of character development to. We don't know anything about his background. We don't know anything about how he feels about anybody or anything. He's got the ear of the general. He's just kind of there in the background. And they were talking about, like the staff, what are they like residential servants or whatever the term was that they use, like they're basically invisible, they just do their thing and they're the perfect spy. And it's like, well, that's this guy. He's not a servant, but he's like a subordinate to the most powerful
Yeah,
military
General
people.
Kitchener. He's
Yeah,
his
and
he's
he's
his
just
guy.
yeah, so he's just there for everything. He's privy to everything. He's making like little suggestions and remarks every once in a while, but people disregard him. And it was especially when Orlando Oxford, was Orlando really his first name?
Yeah.
That he
The Duke says Orlando.
yeah, when he was like, shut up, Morton, or whatever in that one scene, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
they're disregarding him so much. It has to be him.
And I mean, overall, like, hindsight 2020, I look at it and I look at the buildup of everything. It does. It absolutely makes sense that it's him for the twist. Doesn't mean I liked it. I didn't. I
No.
didn't like that it was him. I think it makes sense. I kept wondering, ooh, and I didn't like IMDb it to see what actors are in this. What other actor who I haven't seen that I know is going to pop up in this and be like, they're going to be the Scottish villain. And so it did make sense for it to be him, even though I did not like that as a reveal. But that's okay. I mean, even if I didn't necessarily like that, I do think it made sense for the movie. And so I ended up being okay with it because of that.
Hmm.
It just bothered me that they're using the same actor to do that, and he did that in the only other movie that I know him from.
Same,
Like
same.
that's it. It's the only other thing I've seen. It's probably been in other British shows or movies or things that I haven't, I'm not privy to. But
Well, he was in oh my god, the Imitation Game or whatever, the one with Benedict Cumberbatch or
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
his name. Yeah, he was in that. That's the only other thing I think I've seen him in.
No, Imitation Game was okay. That was an okay
Yeah,
movie, and you're right, he was
was
in
he a
that.
spy in that?
I've
No,
only seen it the one time. It was years
there
ago.
was a spy. Yeah, there was a spy in it, but I don't think it was him. Okay, so
So
the other thing I wanted to talk about,
okay,
unless you
no, no, go ahead.
okay, was Conrad and his death.
He's just
Because
going right there. Yeah,
yeah, at first I really, really didn't like it. I mean,
really.
it's not that it's the fact that he goes through everything he goes through. He like sends that note back with the other guy,
Uh huh.
Archie, whatever, and he's like, I can play games too. I've switched places with this guy. I'm going to the front lines. I got to do what I got to do, that sort of thing. And he makes it through. Some of the stuff, volunteers for the super dangerous mission, and winds up out in no man's land having this ridiculous fight.
Oh my
And I'm just gonna leave that alone. I don't know anything about warfare in World War One, if that's reasonable or not, or if any of it was reasonable. I'm pretty sure the Rasputin didn't like do like Russian ballet dancing on a table
He
while he was
didn't
fighting
dance fight.
anybody. I
Yeah,
don't think so.
he probably didn't dance fight. You're right. But
Um,
no, I think some of the stuff that like that, them trying to sneak around at nighttime to try and get the information that was on this guy,
yeah.
that area, like one of the things I looked up in here, it talks about some of the first panoramic shots of the trenches, with the voiceover of the shepherd. In particular, the part depicting mountains of shell cases are
Hmm.
taken from real photographs of the Battle of Somme. It was fought
Hmm.
between July and November in 1916 with no clear winner, and it cost the lives of around 700,000 British and French soldiers and about 550,000 Germans. And like as shown, entire battalions were mowed down by machine gun fire, and over 1 million shells were fired in the first week alone.
Hmm.
Like to get across areas like that, I mean, the push back, it was nigh on impossible to do that. The warfare had changed at
Hmm.
that point, and it was trying to figure out how to deal with that. So I thought some of that was fairly realistic. I thought they did a good job with that.
I do too, and I like that. I like the way that after that fight, he like starts crying. He's freaked out. He's like, I didn't know what I was signing up for. Like,
Yep.
I didn't know what this was going to be. I didn't even say goodbye to my dad.
Yeah, his dad tried to tell him. He even said, "My dad tried to tell me, and I just didn't. I wanted
Yeah.
to come and do this myself."
And the way that he makes it out, and then the way he dies because he switched with that other guy.
Yep,
He
I
did
loved it.
a parent trap, and he got caught, and just some guy immediately shot him, assuming that he was a spy.
Yeah,
And
that guy
this
was. He was not. He
playing
was
around.
exactly. He was for real. You're a spy. Boom.
Yeah,
That was. I was.
I
See,
was I was shocked by that,
shocked.
honestly.
Absolutely blown away by that,
And
and
at
it
first,
really.
I hated it. I hated it at first, but then I realized like this makes more sense, contributing to the whole like minimize the loss of life thing, like intelligence, the importance of intelligence and things
Yes.
like that. Like it all makes a lot of sense going into that. And honestly, I thought it would be kind of weird if his son survived, because they talked about, Colin Firth in the first movie talked about, these important aristocrats back in the day realizing, they all lost their sons in this
Mhm.
war, and they founded this thing. Okay, leading into another thing, I did not like the repetition of lines from the original movie. I didn't like that at the end when the Duke is laying out his plan, to uh, preserve peace and protect life or whatever. Like I didn't like that he said it exactly the way Colin Firth's character did.
Well, I mean, if you look at it the other way around, wouldn't Colin's first character have been saying it because the Duke said it?
Yes, but the way he said it in that movie wasn't like a speech. It was like a brief, I'm on the elevator. It's an elevator pitch, literally on an elevator
That's
pitch. He's
true.
just telling him like the basic premise, like, here's what happened. These guys all lost their sons and they want to blah. They want to protect people.
It's true.
I just thought it was like unnecessary. They could have done something similar but different. But I guess then you might end up with a really awkward phrasing. The way, God, one of the Spider-Man movies, one of the Tom Holland ones, he's like, "When you can do what I do, and the bad things happen, they happen because of you." Like it's such a goofy way to not say, "With great power comes great responsibility."
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
whole scene just like hurt me.
I get that. I can
So
see
I
that.
get, maybe it's one of those things where they're like, is there another way to phrase this? And they're like, no, let's just do it, and have people be like, oh, like the DiCaprio meme where he's from God, what is it, Hollywood,
Yeah.
Once Upon a Time in
Once
Hollywood or
upon a time in
whatever.
Hollywood,
Yeah, where
he's
he's like
pointing.
pointing at the TV. Yeah, like people be like, oh, that's it, I know that one. Or you could do Marty McFly. I've seen this one before.
What did you think about the way they were blackmailing the U.S. president?
Pretty realistic. I
That
like
they
it.
just sent in this lady and they had a camera set up. I thought
I
that was.
Yeah, I like it.
I did too.
I like that it's that simple. They're like,
And because
figure out a way to get leverage, and
I mean,
they do it.
it's not like Bill Clinton times when he just weathered that storm. Ah, well, I'm gonna do whatever I want. You're gonna show that to public. Well, so be it. That's it is what it is.
Hmm.
No, like he could not let that get out at that time. That would have ended him.
Yeah,
Totally would have ended him.
yeah, yeah. I liked the simplicity of it. I liked that some of it, like with Rasputin, there was a lot of cat and mouse kind of stuff.
Yep.
Like there's this cat and mouse thing where Rasputin eats the cake and then he gets sick and he's like, oh, I guess it just didn't agree with me. And then what he does to the leg actually works. And Orlando's like, oh my God, like I thought you were, like, I didn't think you were for real. Like, this is incredible. Like, thank you so much. And then Rasputin's like, yeah, everything's cool. Just go in the water for a couple. And then he goes, tries to drown him. He's
Right.
like, you think I didn't know what was up? Like, I love the way that it's this thing where you almost think they're going to be like buds for a second, and they go through this whole dinner thing. But then when he meets the lady who's manipulating the U.S. ambassador,
Uh-huh. He was played by
it's like,
Stanley Tucci.
yeah,
This
I
is
thought
a
that was,
big character for a half second. Like he's
yeah.
barely in it, but like
Well, he shows up at the end
yeah, but
around the
he's
table.
hardly in it.
Right. He's barely in it, and yeah, it's he like she basically just reveals it. Like he's looking at this scarf. She knows he knows something is up. She like straight up shows him the ring, and he's like, "Oh, that's unfortunate." And then they have a fight,
And
and
he
he's like,
takes
"All
her
right,
out. It was
yeah,
great.
yeah." I like that too. I like that it wasn't one of these things like we were talking about, where it's like this implausible, like over the top fight. He just gets the drop on her.
Yep.
He's just prepared,
Mm-hmm.
and he just gets a drop on her. He's able to knock her out. He's like, okay, question her, and I'm going to figure out where this scarf came from.
Yep.
And the scarf leads them to where they need to go. Super straightforward, not a whole bunch of cat and mouse, not a big ridiculous fight scene.
I did think the climbing up the mountain scene was a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you know what? Sometimes you're gonna you're talking Kingsman movies, you're gonna have some ridiculousness, and that's fine. And I don't mind that.
It was ridiculous. It reminded me of like an Uncharted game. Like he climbs up the thing, and then the thing falls, and you have to dodge it, and then he has to climb up the little sort of crevice in between, and he gets up onto this ice shelf, and the ice all breaks, and he has to run, and he like jumps off the back of one of the goats to get up. The
Uh,
goats also, that was the other thing that I didn't love, was the over the top villain stuff that the main villain did.
really, I like that stuff. I liked
That
how
he's
he
like,
did villain stuff.
I didn't like that he was just like randomly like killing and hurting his animals, or like killing his like fencing partner or whatever.
I dug that 100%. I liked in the very beginning it's talking about, oh, I got you this because that's your favorite goat. Whatever, say they were talking about
I
that, and he kills that goat, and like it's to show I'm serious.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's my favorite thing, but
I'm not going
I'm
to be precious about any of this. Yeah, I
right.
did like that, but the rest of it just made him seem like an asshole.
I know.
Like, and there's a difference between just being an unhinged asshole and being somebody who's capable of planning like world events and orchestrating conflicts between nations.
It's
And I
true.
feel like those two things are sort of incompatible. It's why I realized pretty quickly like Rasputin's probably not gonna usurp this guy, and I'm so glad that he didn't. I'm so like, if I felt like I watched 2 or 3 movies, because it was like, well, this is the bad guy. Okay, Now this is the thing. Like, is the kid going to make it home, and is the war going to end? Okay, no, that's not happening. Now, boom, here's the real ending. I really liked that it took you on this journey where you didn't know exactly what was going to happen.
I will agree with that. It did take you on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
When Connor got killed, I was just mouth hanging agape. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
It was that, like we talked about with the first two movies, how they kill off this character in the first movie, and that was impactful. It
Yeah.
was, it made an impact on you because this character had an impact on you throughout the whole movie, and then this happens, and you're like, whoa. But then they do the thing, and it's like comic book movies do. And I know it's all based on a comic. I
Mm-hmm.
understand that, but it bugged me that they brought him. But even that might have been what happens in the comics. I don't know. I've never read these. I don't
Yeah.
know, but it still bugged me. And so that kid getting killed, it also felt real
Mm-hmm.
because lots of young men didn't come back from this,
Yeah. And a
and
lot of
that's
people don't
not
come
what it is.
back from stuff because of misunderstandings.
Yep,
And I thought the cinematography for that scene was kind of amazing.
it was really good.
Like the way his body is going back and down, the commanding officer is like lunging towards the guy who fired. The cigarette case that has the like folded up information
Uh
is
huh.
just sort of hangs in midair for a second. He just like, as soon as he gets shot, it just releases.
Yeah.
And it was like, there are a couple scenes. I know I talked about Vikings a bunch because I was just watching it a couple weeks ago, but there are a couple scenes in that where they have like the most horrific, violent scenes ever, but the way they shoot them is like so artistic and beautiful. It's like it's mesmerizing a little bit. And there were a couple scenes like that in this. There were really creative scenes. You have the end fight between the Duke and Morton,
Uh huh.
where they do like the shadow thing, which a lot of movies do. I feel like what was it, Skyfall probably did that. They
Yeah.
had the silhouette fight scene in like China, wherever that was. And a lot of movies have done that since. I'm sure they weren't the first ones, but they were the first. They did that, and then a whole bunch of other movies did that for a while. And then you have like that weird scene where it almost reminded me of like Guitar Hero, where in Guitar Hero there would be angles of the footage that you're seeing where you're seeing like up the bridge of the guitar,
Yeah.
like up the
Oh yeah,
and
I know what you're
it's
talking about.
you're looking down the sword, like you're seeing the swords
Yes,
like bumping
I
into
like
each
that a
other a little
lot.
bit. Yeah, I like that. I
It
just
was
like that
something
they threw in
unique
these.
that I hadn't
Yeah,
seen before.
they put so much effort into a couple of these like little shots that only lasted a couple seconds, and I really appreciated it.
I did
It's
too.
kind of
Like
like
that
the
specifically right there. I'd forgotten about that because I watched this farther back than you did. I didn't take any notes on it or anything because I didn't necessarily plan on us doing this. It just worked out this way for us. But
Mhm.
that was one of those moments, and I don't get that a lot in movies anymore.
Yeah,
Seeing
well,
something I haven't ever seen before.
and just seeing the care taken in it.
Uh huh.
Say what you will about like the way products are made now, like there are times where you see something that's really well done like that, like that just somebody paid attention to it. I'm just saying, like
Exactly.
in general, when somebody pays attention and cares about something, you notice. Like in my car is an old Audi,
Not that
and
old.
well, it's fairly old, but it's one of those things where like I've had other cars that were a similar size and shape, and you got to like lean way back and grab the seatbelt. Like when Audi made this, they just made this little extender that when you get in, it just extends it out to where you can actually reach it. It's just this little tiny thing. It's not
Yep.
worth a huge amount, but it's like, oh, they thought of this. They realize when you sit down, it's like that.
Yep.
I'm sure there's little things like that you've noticed on in TV shows or games or whatever, like, oh, it's so nice that they thought about this.
Yep. 100%.
And it's nice that they thought about, like, we don't want this to just look like every other generic action scene or sword fight or whatever from any other movie, even from our own movie. I can feel that. Like, they're like, okay, we don't want to replicate what has become a very iconic fight style from the first two movies. We want to
Yeah.
do something different because I didn't feel like they were the same. Like that first scene with Colin Firth where he does the manners maketh man thing and locks the doors to that pub and
Was
just
so
goes
good.
off. Like it was really, really good. And I've never seen anything choreographed quite like that before. And none of them felt like that in this.
Yep.
And I really like that they didn't feel like it. I like that every major fight scene actually felt different. And I think it's probably down to the little details in terms of like, we're going to shoot from down here, or we're going to shoot the shadows, or we're going to shoot from above, or like whatever it is, these little attention to detail things that just make it feel a little nicer, like they
So
thought of our experience.
agreed. So I wanted to ask you. There's a line by Kitchener, and it says the objective of war is not to die for one's country, but to make the enemy die for theirs.
Hmm.
Did that line strike you for any reason?
I've heard it before, but I don't know where.
Okay, so when I heard it, I knew exactly where I'd heard it from, and
Wait a
it's
minute. Is that's not from Captain America, is it?
no, not at all.
Okay.
It is not.
I mean, knowing you,
That's fair.
I was like,
No, it's
okay,
from
maybe this was in a Captain America comic or something.
it's actually from a real line by a World War II general from America, but it's from the movie Patton.
Mm,
Patton, played by George C. Scott, did a great job. But it's from the actual General George S. Patton. But the actual line itself is, "No bastard ever won a war by dying for his country. He won it by making the other poor dumb bastard die for his country."
right.
So they just kind of Britished
Gentlemen
up.
did
They
British.
Britished up that a little Americanized version of that line. But as soon as I heard it, I'm like, I was like DiCaprio from the movie pointing at the TV. Oh, I know it. I know what it is. You stole that. But this was fun. It had some really good moments to it. I did. Like you said, I ended up liking this a lot more than I thought I would.
Mhm.
And it's hard for me to just say I'm glad they made it because I still think they could have ended after the original Kingsman movie and not made any more.
I think they could have just skipped Kingsman 2 and just had
Just
this.
made this.
I mean, I like that they have. Well, yeah, I like that they took the care to make a reference to Statesman.
I mean,
Right.
yeah.
They established that exists. I get what they were doing with the references. The bad guy says "manners maketh man" and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They could have done without it. I think they could have done those a little bit better, but I understand why they did it. It's almost like a brand thing, just to say some of those lines. But yeah, overall, I'm really surprised at how much I liked this movie, and I hope that I wouldn't mind seeing more of them. I mean,
I just want them to be done well.
yeah, with care. I want
Like
them
take the
to. I want them to
time.
put the same care into the storytelling that they did into the cinematography that made it all feel so unique and special.
And that's hard to do. Like
Mm.
we understand as people who are consuming this. I think you Halligans know it as well that it's hard to do to not just say, "All right, what worked in the first movie? All right, let's do more of that. Do more of those jokes, do more of those action scenes, do more of that whatever it was that worked in the first movie, and
Mhm.
that'll make the second movie great." No, that's not what makes it great. Like one of
Like,
my very favorite Pixar movies, The Incredibles. They waited an exceptional amount of time before coming out with the second Incredibles movie because they didn't just want to throw out a sequel just to do it. I don't necessarily think the sequel to that was as
worth the
good
wait.
as I was hoping it was going to be for all the
Yeah.
wait, but it was okay. I mean, it was well done for what it was, but it's that to replicate the feeling you had with that. Not many movies do that. Empire in the Star Wars series did that. It
Mm.
really stepped up the game. Return of the Jedi, I mean, it was arguably the worst out of those three,
Mm.
depending on how you look at it. But
Depending on how you feel about Ewoks, honestly.
it is. Oh, those little brown bastards. But this was a step back to form for the Kingsmen, and I'm glad that they did it. I do look forward to more. It's hard for me
I
to
mean,
say only because I really like the main character in it of Eggsy, but it's also because I really like that style of these movies. And
yeah.
this felt the least like those movies, but it did have glimmers of it.
It seemed like it had the same spirit, if not exactly the same style.
Yeah.
Like it very much it felt like something that they wanted to make, where the second one kind of felt like not exactly like phoning it in, but trying to figure out a way to like replicate some of the things that they thought made the first one successful. I think a movie that was a totally unnecessary and just bad sequel was The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard.
I still haven't seen that, but I'll have to take your word for it.
Did we not do that one?
We didn't. We just did the original one.
Oh man, I really really don't like that one.
Okay.
It's super bad.
That's terrible.
It undoes everything. It's what I was talking about before. It's like stepping back a lot of these characters, regressing them so you can put them through things again. It has its little moments, like it has some of the jokes that land because it's still Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson, but they just they just do a really really bad job of it. Like it feels way less grounded, and it's okay. The only way I can describe it is, all right, my soon to be sister in law, Kaylee,
Okay.
she makes really dumb jokes. And every once in a while, one of those jokes lands and we laugh. And then she just like goes for it harder and makes like more ridiculous, over the top, inappropriate, like weird jokes. And it's like, ugh, what happened? No. Why did you do that?
Okay.
That's how I felt about that movie. It's like they're like, oh, they like this. Let's just make it make no sense at all. We'll add more references, more funny lines, more banter,
Yeah, that's the
and
thing is
just none
just
of the story, none of the heart, none of the things that make sense. We're gonna roll
yeah.
back everything good that we did in the last one. It was just bad.
And they didn't do
And
that here.
no, they did this one really, really well. They
And
did.
there's a part of it that I really enjoyed that it didn't feel like a Kingsman movie because this is before the Kingsman. And
Right.
so there were glimmers, like I said, there were glimmers of it. There were little bits that the Rasputin stuff, maybe some of the sword fighting in the last fight. There were some things that seemed like a Kingsman movie, but
Hmm.
because it's the prequel to it, it had to feel like something that was its own thing, and
Yeah.
I think this succeeded in that.
I thought Ralph Fiennes looked ridiculous in the 3-button suit and those glasses, like those tortoiseshell glasses.
I mean,
Those looked so odd on him. He looked so good in all the other suits and stuff that he wore, and he just looked so weird in that outfit. I don't know what it was. It was like, why does this not work for him? Why does he look like he's cosplaying as Eggsy? Because Colin Firth, Mark Strong, they all pulled off their
they
clothes
did.
and their glasses and like whatever their getups were really well. It felt like something they would naturally wear. And with Eggsy's thing, it's kind of a uniform. With this guy, like you're clearly seeing this is the archetype for the way they are going to dress going forward because he's this, noble gentleman kind of guy. But it just looked really odd on him. It's like your old glasses looked better, your old suit looked better. Like it was just strange. It was
Huh.
like it's like they ran out of time and they're like, can you fit into Taron Egerton's suit
Oh
and
my god,
glasses? And they're like, and so they just tried it. And they're like, yeah, that'll do.
it'll do. Nah, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's about all I got. The Halligans. This is going to be a watch from me. Ryan, any final thoughts from you?
No, it's just really, really good. I went off the rails talking about the little details, but I really did feel it most of the time. They're just these little things that they just did really well. Like Polly's in that shack and they're shooting at it and there's cheese going everywhere. And when she stands up later, she's got cheese all over her because that makes sense.
It
Like
does.
they paid attention to some of those details, like injuries mattered. They had the knife in the shoe to kind of foreshadow that a little bit. There were just all these little details and things that I just really appreciated. It's like you care about this one. I don't feel like you cared so much about the second one. I feel like that was a thing where a studio executive made you do some of that stuff. But
So
yeah,
is
and,
that?
and I do want there to be more. And did you see the mid credit scene? Did you realize that there was a mid credit scene?
Oh, I don't know if I did.
They fucking teased Hitler. I'm not kidding. It sounds like a joke, sounds like a meme. It is the right hand man to the Kaiser meeting with Lenin, and he's like, okay, so our left hand is strong. We have to even it out with the right hand. And to that end, and then somebody walks in the room and he's like, oh, hi, it's nice to meet you. And he's like, and you are? And he's like, Adolf Hitler. And then it cuts. And I was like,
Did he go 99999? He didn't do no.
no, no. He takes off his
Uh,
glasses and his hands are all shaking. No, he, yeah, it's like,
okay.
what is this? Are you, please make this funny. Please. Like, this has to be, they tease Hitler.
Yeah, but I don't want them to stay with this. They have to go back to you know present day now.
I'm okay with them doing concurrent ones.
Ooh, I don't know.
Do like some historical ones, and because it's almost like what I said with Bond, that they could have had what's her name, Naomi something or whatever.
Yeah.
What was
Oh,
that
and
movie
have
called?
her be a female Bond
No
while you have
time.
somebody else be a male Bond, and they're both doing their own thing, and they cross over sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, she wouldn't be Bond, but she's just yeah. The idea being like my hope was at the end of that movie, Lashana Lynch as Nomi, whatever, I don't know how to pronounce that, but yeah, Lashana Lynch's character.
Okay.
My hope was that Lashana Lynch's character would be by the end of the movie another double O. She's
Okay.
like 009 or something like that, and that they would then have two double O's because they always hinted at other double O's. Like they're
Yep.
talked about in the books a lot. We know they exist. Like I think Pierce
Goldeneye.
Brosnan, yeah, he's got. Well, yeah, that's true. You got Sean Bean as another double O.
Uh-huh.
They're like little references. It's like, oh, 004 listens to this music I don't like, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it would have been cool to have her as this other double O. So you'd have two series running at the same time. You've got Bond, you've got her, and yeah, they can
Okay.
cross over from time to time. Obviously, we don't want to do a Men in Black 3 or whatever it was and have like a time travel thing happen where Eggsy encounters like Oxford, but
No.
you could
Oh
have two
God, don't let that
concurrent
happen.
series like Kingsman through history and then Kingsman in modern day with Eggsy.
Huh?
I'd be okay with that.
I don't know if I'm okay with that. I want this to be its own thing, and if they're going to do more, to go back to present day. But I don't know. This is one thing I do like about this thing that we do. I said, that's all I got. Ryan, is that all you got? Yeah, that's all I got. All right, let me talk for 10 more minutes about this
Well,
other stuff.
I forgot about. I just
love
wanted to
that.
mention
I
like the
love that
cheese and the
this thing
details,
we do.
and then I forgot that they tease Hitler.
I didn't even see them. I didn't even look. I didn't even think that they would do that.
You know what? It might just be they might be trolling us.
It might be.
They might not actually ever do anything with it. They might have just done it
God.
so that people like me who have to know if there's a mid or end credit scene would just be like, "What the fuck are they doing?"
Oh my God, I didn't know. I'm learning it here as all you Halligans are learning it. So go watch this movie if you haven't. If you like the other ones, check it out.
Yeah.
If you have anything to say to us about it, if you think we're right, if you think we're wrong,
Yeah, you can let us know that. You can email us at moviehowl@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Twitter. You can see announcements for new episodes. You can be verbally abusive. We can take it. And that
we're
is
big. We got big, broad shoulders. I can take it, no problem.
and that Twitter handle is @moviehowl.
All right, this has been another one from us. We do hope you enjoyed it. Thanks as always for listening, taking the time to get through all of this with us. I don't know about you, but I've been Joe.
I've been Ryan. Oh, okay.
Yep.
One
What?
more thing I want to
Damn
bitch
it.
about. Why did Morton wear a wig? It has him like take off the wig in one scene. And it's like, dude, you could have just been like he shaved his head. He didn't have to be wearing a wig. Anyway, yep, that's it. I'm out. I just see there's
All
so
right,
little...
I've been Joe. He's been Ryan. That's it. We're out.
Bye.